witches, and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, my pronouns are she, they, and in today's video we're going to go through witchy tools, witchy equipment, what's the stuff that you need to have when you start your witchy practice. And basically the stuff that I bought 3 years ago when I started to practice, the stuff that I still use, the stuff that I realized it's not needed, and so hopefully I'm going to save you money. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi. And if you like what I do here, you can support me directly there with a monthly donation, recurring, a one-off donation, or even by getting a tarot reading with me Italian style. The low-income option starts at £5. And for the foreseeable future, part of my profits go split equally between Kuchus to Gaza, who supports Palestinian refugees in Cairo, and the Good Law Project, who's trying to bring back trans rights to the UK. So if you'd like to support me there, thank you so very much. Little insight on Ko-fi, I am considering bringing memberships that become sort of Patreon tiers where we can like vote what videos I do, stuff like that. I haven't yet, but just keep it in mind. It's coming. It's happening. It's all happening.
Because until this moment, the forced starvation that Israel is engineering and profiting of is still going, killing people every day, either by just starving because they are dying because of hunger in the hospitals, or on front of the distribution points. And then you will ask me now about the amounts of aids that Israel is allowed to enter. First, it's not covering 5% of the need. It's not sustainable. It's not secured to reach any warehouses. And by the way, not only theft gangs are supported by Israel, also the settlers are supported by Israel to interrupt and to steal and to destroy the aid trucks before entering to Gaza.
Right, I want to do this video because I am trying to declutter my house. I lived here for 2.5 years now, and I started to practice not even 6 months before I moved here. And I can accumulate even on a good day. And I try to be mindful of that. I like things, I like knickknacks, and then I realized, but where do I really gonna put these? So I'm trying to save you the trouble, basically. There's a premise that I need to do on this. I'm not trying to take a dump on anyone, and I'm gonna explain why. And the extended version of this is capitalism and cottagecore. So I realize that when we come to witchcraft for whatever thing has happened in our life that gives us the need to find a spirituality where we feel empowered. We don't feel that we are second-class, third-class citizens compared to whoever holds the power. Christianity and Catholicism comes to mind. So we want a spirituality that is ours and we can be empowered in it because we need it, because we have it as part of having developed consciousness, I think. Something higher than even we can understand. So I know that when I came to witchcraft, it was because my take on life was not amazing. We had just suffered a loss in the family that I wasn't taking well. And surprisingly, my wife brought me to this, suggested that we do, a ritual that was basically a funeral, but including Persephone, so it's the kind of thing. And something that happened to me when I started was that because of the loss that I had gone through, I felt like I had to... This became my special interest, basically, being autistic also. That helped the outer focus, I guess. But when you have the need for this and you come to witchcraft, you want to go 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. And because we all live still in late stage capitalism, one of two things or both things can happen when you do this. One, as much as you want to create a witchcraft practice, you have a lot of things that take up time and money and attention in your life. You maybe have a job, you have maybe multiple jobs, maybe you don't have that much disposable income even. You have stuff that takes up physical, economical, and mental space in your life. And probably that's why you also need to lean into a spirituality and something that feels only yours. But you don't have, say, the time to spend and do hours of meditation a day, where on a very practical level you might very well be doing nothing. Maybe you don't have the luxury of that time, or maybe, you know, you're neurodivergent and when you try to meditate, your mind can go very dark places. That's not absolutely something that is worth doing. Like, if you're neurodivergent, by the way, yeah, meditation sounds like something that's not quite appealing to you. There's a reason why. Like, people with PTSD and such, sitting and spending time inside your mind, just look into the other sides of meditation for that, because it's not necessarily... I know that they say you need to know yourself and spend time in silence, knowing your brain. Great if you can do that, and if you have not enough like PTSD or trauma or neurodivergence, that doesn't actually damage you. So be mindful of that. But yeah, you need time for that. You need time even just to do those things that personally I was attracted to first in green witchery, basically, which was the simplest of things, like going for a walk in my local park and starting to recognize the herbs, the leaves, the trees, and that's a relatively low-key activity because, you know, there are free apps to recognize trees, but you still need the time. And I think in late-stage capitalism, the time and the energy are those two things that you likely don't have, and that's exactly why you need a spirituality, because you hope to find a way to cope with the fact that you don't have the time nor the energy. And a way that I have noticed, and I've done it myself, people try to compensate for not having the time and the energy to actually create a witchcraft practice, is the next best thing. And the next best thing is acquiring the objects that are connected to the idea of that practice, so everything that has to do with the aesthetic of it. Because by acquiring that object, if you have the disposable income, you feel closer to what that practice is supposed to be. You don't have the time to actually have the practice because you have jobs, you don't have the energy, all of that, but you can acquire the object, and that's the next best thing. And that's what witchcore and cottagecore are all about, which is why I'm like, yeah, I've done capitalism and cottagecore about this. And if it sounds familiar, I am not taking a dump on you. I've done it myself. And I understand why, again, in late-stage capitalism, especially if you work 1, 2, 3 jobs, you don't have the time to dedicate to develop a practice, to develop and just dedicate time to it. But you might have a tiny bit, not much, but a tiny bit of disposable income still to, you know, buy books, buy wands, buy all those objects that we are told are witchy, and so it makes us feel like witches. I do not blame you, but I understand that after a while it still feels empty, like, why don't I feel like this is giving me something? And that's because capitalism is very good at finding a way to sell us back anything, and spirituality, unfortunately, is not an exception. So this, going back to the original reason why I'm making this video, it's to tell you what I bought at the beginning that I thought, as a witch, I needed to have. And 3.5 years later, it's actually, you know, I actually need very little, and this is what I use now. So it's a before and after, and hopefully I'll save you money. But again, if you decide to then go and buy a cauldron and buy those things because that makes you feel more witchy, because you don't have the time necessarily to have a practice or do more witchy things, I don't blame you. That's all. Right, stuff that I bought. I have to start with the wands. Now, these are beautiful work of art, if you ask me. So 2 weeks into my practice, I found this woman in the Isle of Wight that was handmaking these for a price that, understanding the craft of this, was too little. Like, this costed less than 30 quid. For some bizarre reason, I associated this wand and then the second one that I got with my grandparents. I don't know why. I think because getting into witchcraft, really, the first thing that came to mind was spirits, and therefore, oh, can I get closer to my grandparents again? I will show you my ancestor altar here. Like, that was the first interest that I had. Probably also because, again, my coming to witchcraft came from having a loss in the family. So all the losses that I had gone through before sort of came to the forefront of my mind. That was the first one that I got, and it's hazel, and it was, it reminded me of my grandmother. Like, I don't know why, it's maybe silly, but it's shorter than usual wands. It's sturdy, it reminds me of my grandmother being relatively short, stocky, but powerful, and not necessarily very, polished, but still, like, yeah, I don't know, I liked it. And the look reminded me of my grandmother. So I got this, and that was the first one. Then I wanted to get one for Raven. Raven started to practice at my same time. Like, Raven is the person that suggested we started to practice because they saw that I started to lose the idea that life had a meaning. So it was better to get me an interest, basically. So I specifically asked for the second wand to be custom made. And I asked this lady from the Isle of Wight, which unfortunately doesn't make them anymore. Like, I think her craft was amazing, but her Etsy shop is no longer there. And I asked her to make poplar ones because hazel I connected with my grandmother because we used to have a hazel tree in the back of our yard where we would go and gather hazelnuts together. And poplar used to be the kind of tree that my parents, being farmers in northwest Italy, used to plant and then have them for like 10 years and then sell the wood. So I asked this lady if she could find poplar. She did. And there's a straighter wand that became Raven's wand. It's really pretty, it's really chunky. And then she also had this bit. And the fact that this twig was very skinny and a bit wonky made me think of my grandfather. My grandfather was tall, skinny, and so I commissioned the second one. These I've actually never used. The first one I used a couple of times to cast a circle. These I've actually never used at all. It's pretty. I think it's a very nice object, but I haven't used. I will say this though, and I used to like this at the beginning, especially with the first one. It's the first kind of thing that ever made me feel energy. Like, I was holding it and I was like, why do I feel like my hand has a heart beating in it? Why can't I feel I could feel my pulse in my fingers while I was holding it, which is probably just a physics thing, but I like that. It made me feel that I could feel energy, so good. But again, they're very pretty. I'm very glad that I could support her art, but I've never actually used these to, well, my grandfather's. I used my grandmother's to cast a circle at the beginning of things, but nowadays I usually do the LPRP, so I just use my fingers, so they're not necessary. On the same matter of, oh, it's so pretty, these I actually made myself, it's crochet. I saw these on, on Etsy. It's hazel as well. It's not as decorated as the other one, like it doesn't have like copper or anything. It's really pretty though. I think it's like this because honeysuckle was going around the hazel and therefore gave it this spiral thing. It's so pretty, isn't it? I've never used it. It's so pretty. I've never used it. So, I understand decoration, I understand the mood, I understand the aesthetic, but realistically, do you need wands? I personally don't. I don't use them, I use my fingers. And people can think whatever they want. Yes, I know. Oh yeah, I used to have altar cloths, I used to have crystals to mark, the north, or actually the north, east, south, and west, and everybody has its own crystal. Crystals are very hard to get and make sure that they are ethically sourced. When I start to realize that, I stopped buying crystals. There are other ways to do, correspondences and connections, and crystals just don't feel like a safe thing that I can guarantee nothing and no one was harmed in the process. Yeah. I have a cauldron. It was gifted to me because I guess when you know that there's a witch around, you have like a certain selection of things that you can gather. I think I've used it a couple of times, especially when my coven was around, but it's absolutely unnecessary. Also, I don't use the disc charcoal, so it's pretty because, cauldron witch, hey, but no, I actually don't use. It's just there. It's just there to be seen, and I personally don't need it. When I burn things, when I say burn a petition, I literally have the dishes for that. I get dishes from charity shops because I like them. Sometimes they are antique, sometimes they are vintagey, and I like that. I have a couple of Port Mayron ones as well, which are literally bowls that I got at TK Maxx because otherwise I could never afford that. But they have flowers and they have sort of antique vintage flowers. That's really nice. But yeah, I use that. I don't need the cauldron. Like every witch, I fell into the beginner's mistake of getting a kit that included abalone shell and the sage or Palo Santo. And this is still the first Palo Santo that I got, and I stopped using it and I haven't finished it. Because if you go to a witchy shop and they will tell you, oh, you need sage to cleanse, or there's Palo Santo. Sage and Palo Santo are endangered, and also they are from closed practices. Ari the Oak Witch made a video that is much better than I can go through. I discuss it also in my cultural appropriation video. You don't need that. Also, a bundle of sage costs like £5, and I can tell you immediately how you need to spend 50p and you're done. And the way to do that is with the herbs from your supermarket and jute. And usually I get a packet of rosemary, and I wrap it up in jute, I put it on my altar to dry, and that's what I use to actually cleanse my house. So there, it even costs less. Like, it's better and it costs less. What else do you want? Yeah, I bought a metric facton of essential oils because I was like, so I'll have everything that it's ever needed. I use 4. I genuinely probably have one of each that exists from a certain brand. I use 4. So yeah, I would wait a second for that. I find that most stuff that I might want to use an oil for, what you might actually have, it's the cooking herbs that you have in your kitchen. You probably have sage there, culinary sage, you probably have rosemary, you probably have thyme, you probably have oregano, and if you literally just use cooking olive oil, if you want to, say, charge a candle with the oil and the herbs, always do it in a very safe and large dish if you do it, because when you put oil on a candle, the flame really takes up. I didn't know at the beginning. I'll put here a picture of when I didn't know at the beginning. It was actually dangerous. Don't do that. So yeah, when you anoint a candle, large plate where it can melt and take fire, because it will. But you don't need all the complicated thing. And I have a drawer full of essential oils that I don't use now. Same with stuff like Florida water and flower distilled water. No, at some point I started to buy all the possible herbs as well, to have like in small containers, for the idea of having an apothecary. Again, the only herbs that I really use are the ones that are in the kitchen anyway. So yeah, like admittedly I bought a bag of mugwort, but that it's like mugwort that it's edible for actually making tea. So that I use both for making tea and sometimes to burn. But it's make sure that they are edible, because it's the only way that they are actually safe. There are shops that have capitalized so much on the witchcraft revival that they will sell you herbs and salt that is not for human consumption. So what that means is that actually whatever way it's been kept or processed, the stuff that it goes through is not necessarily to a degree of safety where they can guarantee you can consume it and it doesn't have any residue of bad stuff. Which is it's so wasteful, and it so much forgets the entire reason why we use herbs and stuff. And it used to come from, the canning folks and the herbalists that actually use the stuff to make concoction, to make potions, to make tea, and we would consume them. So the idea that we just now have these herbs that they sell to us at a premium price that you can't even consume if you wanted to, because it's not for human consumption, it sort of delivers how capitalism is trying to sell us back witchcraft, and we're just eating it up because, again, it's the only thing that we can do, buy stuff, because we can't buy time. So yeah, like probably what you have in your kitchen cupboard, that's fine. You don't need anything more. I have recently sorted through my chest of drawers with all my supplies, and I already threw away half of it, and it's still full of stuff that I don't know if I will ever use. And it's just such a waste. It's such a waste. It's absolutely unnecessary. Yeah. Oh yeah, at some point I got very much into selenite, used selenite for everything. And there were the selenite candle holders, which there's nothing bad. And actually these I got secondhand. Thankfully at that point it had already occurred to me I can get a lot of stuff on eBay and Vinted. And actually some of these I found in local charity shops. So, you know, it's not the worst, but honestly, again, I don't really use them. It's not necessary. I have candle holders for the altars on my deity altars. But here's the deal. You know that I had crystals and altar cloths and everything, and especially at the beginning of my practice, I used to post like an altar picture a day, because it's all I have, the aesthetic, to think that I'm a witch. But yeah, I don't even have a working altar anymore. Nowadays, I do spells where it's relevant. So for example, I do a Jupiterian spell every Thursday, and I do it on my desk because my computer is there and that's where I do most of my work. So because it's related to work and career, that's where I do it. At times I have done spells that have to do with prosperity and career advancement in community terms. I do those on my Venus altar because it's Venus related, but I don't have an altar, like a Wicca altar with the 4 elements and all of that. So the altar cloths, the crystals, all of that, I don't need them because I don't even have an altar for that. My spells go specifically around the house, wherever it's more relevant, wherever it's more needed. Oh yeah, pendulums. Okay, so here's the thing. Having been raised in Italy, along with a lot of cartomancers, there were a lot of pendulums around. Il pendolino. So when I realized getting into witchcraft that was a witchy thing, to me it was not only a witchy thing, but also, oh, I remember, like it's something that I used to see around as a child, and I love to play with these. I had no idea what they were about at the time, but I liked them. So one of the first things I did was run to Etsy and buy a pendulum that looked exactly like the ones that I remembered, which one of the brass ones that actually has a chamber. And I did that, and pendulums don't work with me at all. It doesn't matter how much I've tried. And not satisfied with that, I bought another one, and another one, and another one. They still don't work with me. So yeah, something that I realized since is not only you can make your own pendulum to discover if they work with you before you actually invest money, with, you know, a piece of string and a rock or a ring or something that, you know, gives weight to it. But also something that works very well normally as a pendulum, which I've seen Raven use very well, is necklaces. Like, because, you know, you hold it and it goes. Raven gifted me a necklace a year and a half ago, one of our anniversaries. And the last time that they held it, they realized that it was working as a pendulum for them, and the stuff that they channeled was fascinating, to say the least. And it's not something specific that you need, again. I mean, at least, not definitely something that I needed. Oh yeah, when I went for a grimoire, I went like hard. And by all means, I still use it, but I already have another one with these finishes. I am halfway through now, and it's been 3 years and something. And yeah, I wanted the full version, you know, it needs to look witchy, it's leather bound. My pen is just gone. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, when it's like this, it's really hard to organize. I've made a specific video where I just go through every page of this, but something that shows there is that I had to start adding pages in ways, because this is not something, you write it, and then if you need to add, you don't. So I've done it like this, like I've added pages that I taped in, which, you know, it's very rustic, it's a style, but I already have a binder that I will use after this, so that I can add pages in the rings how I want, and that's just something that you get from stationery, and it doesn't even remotely cost as much as something that is leather bound and this fancy. Oh yeah, for 3 years now, I've got every year one of the date books, the diaries, that it's one of the witchy things. Yeah, so they have very little space, like the days are very, very small. In both cases, like this is the Llewellyn one, and this is the Temperance Olden one, so like they have stripes for days, which can be okay. You know, they have stuff every month that tells you about that month. Sometimes they have spells. Realistically, I don't use that much. I just liked the idea of having, you know, a witch's diary. I still have one for this year that I'm currently using. Sweetie, yeah. Can you get me the purple thingy that it's on the corner of the futon, please? Like, yeah, this is the one that I was using this year, but realistically, like this, admittedly, has the most information in it, still does the mistake of the white sage, which kind of bothered me. So I guess that's the reason why, like, the more I learned, the less satisfied I am with someone else telling me what to do, I guess. And so what I do, really, coming the end of August, which we're getting to, is going to TK Maxx, and they have all the diaries, like even the 16 months diary, in offer. And I got these last year, which I'm trying to find again because they're so pretty. Because it's not only pretty like this, but it's like this pretty inside. Like, I don't necessarily always have the time to decorate and stuff, and this is already all watercolory and nice, which I loved. It didn't come with, you know, a bag at the end to add stuff, and sometimes I need to add stuff, or, you know, so I just literally taped one. But it's pretty, it's witchy because it has, you know, all the cottagecore stuff, and I paid, I think, £5 for it. And by all means, it doesn't come, you know, with the reminders of Ostara or Beltane or any of that. So if you want that thing specifically, completely fair, actually I should, I am basically boycotting myself. No, I am basically telling you not to buy from my shop, because the main thing that I sell on my shop on Etsy is usually the calendars and the diaries from Llewellyn coming August to September. They're my best seller every year. So I'm not telling you not to buy it. If you like it, by all means, and if you buy it from a Coven of Two, thank you. But I personally don't use like the diary of Llewellyn anymore. I use this. I still use the calendar, like the calendar of Llewellyn, but admittedly I have like 3 calendars because they're pretty. And they last the entire year, so it seems to me like an investment that you know, it's good value for money. You see it around for a year and it's pretty. So it's, yeah. I have 2 witch caskets, and one was a gift, so it's a very nice gift, by all means. One I bought, and I give credit to the creativity of the makers of witch casket. And I completely understand why, going back to the original foundation of these. So you want to witch, as a tense, to witch. You want to witch, but you don't have the time or the energy, but you have 25 to 30 quid a month to spend. Witch casket will send you stuff that it's thoughtful, and it will make you feel witchy without having to do much. So you literally buy the object hoping that it carries with it some of the essence of the spirituality that you don't have the time for. Yeah, those are my thoughts on witch caskets, of which I have 2. I also, like, I've kept them sealed since I've got them. I think from the one that I was gifted, I used one of the incenses because it was nice. Worth 30 quid? I don't know. And the one that I got myself, which was the Threshold issue last year, I still haven't used anything, because it's mostly about doing cleansing and protection for the house, and I have my established ways to do that. Link somewhere about the house protection video that I've already done. So because I have my codified ritual, I don't need that. It's nice if, again, you don't have the time to do the rituals or to do your own thing or to establish your own thing, but be conscious that you're spending the money to compensate for the fact that the rhythm of life in late stage capitalism does not actually allow you to have a practice. So the next best thing is acquiring objects that remind you of it. Now, admittedly, before going into stuff that I have today, and I use today still after 3 years as a witch, I will make a note. And the note, I will make 2 notes. The first note is deity altars. Now, my deity altars are all based on charity shop or secondhand stuff that I got on eBay and Vinted. I think the only... No, everything actually. I was like, oh, did I actually buy the statue new? Probably, but it still was from eBay. Arguably, you don't even need a statue for someone like Vesta, because Ovid was very, very loud about the point. Vesta is in the fire. We don't have the anthropomorphized version because Vesta is the fire. So technically, I didn't even need that. And at the beginning, I didn't have the statue, but I appreciate that when you are dedicated to something, having objects that relate to it might help you, or might help making you feel like you are dedicated to it. So by all means, if you have the disposable income, go crazy on aesthetic. But do you need it? No. That's the short version. Yeah, for Vesta, I got the statue on eBay. Did I need it? No, technically the first few months I just had the candle every day, and the candle, because of the flame, was Vesta. And technically it's on an electric, but a fireplace, so technically that as well was her. Everything else I added because I liked it, it was pretty, and I could afford it, and it was secondhand. And the same goes for Venus altar. Actually, the statue of Venus is secondhand as well. It used to be a lamp, but it's a lamp in the shape, basically, of the Venus of Botticelli, just dressed instead of being naked. So that's what I did. And all the other things that are on the altar are also secondhand from eBay, charity shops, and Vinted. I got 2 abalone shells for her at some point. They were bought from charity shops. I have a lot of rose quartz. The rose quartz actually comes from a beach in Cardiff. I don't know why. Geologically, it would be very interesting to understand why. Cardiff Penarth has a layer of rose quartz. And so on the beach, because it's crumbling down, there are a lot of pieces of rose quartz. Some of them have been in the sea, and you can tell by how smooth they are. This is a piece of rose quartz, believe me on that, okay? I got it from Cardiff Beach. It's all smooth because it actually was in the sea for a while. And I have a few of those. I also have a piece of coral for the same, like in the same way, I found it on the beach. But yeah, everything else is recycled or secondhand, and usually I see it, it's pretty, and I can afford it. Honestly, eBay, Vinted, charity shops. Most of the witchy stuff that I currently use is thrifted. Aha, that's the thing. That being said, witches tools and objects that I use nowadays in my practice as a 3-year-old witch. Jute twine, lots of that. This is from the works and cost £1. And the main thing that I use this for is freezer spells. So when a bad letter comes and I would like people to forget about me, I usually anoint the paper with rue essence, root distilled, what's it called? It's not an essential oil because the essential oil of rue costs too much. But I have a tincture of rue that is also bigger. And I put some of that on the page, and then I fold the page continuously away from me and turning it counterclockwise. And then I wrap it as tightly as I can with jute twine. And it stays in the bottom drawer of my freezer. And so far, so good. Candles. Admittedly, my most basic magic is always candle magic. A spell with a candle and an intention. And I let it burn. Burn, baby, burn. And yeah, that's the main thing. Like, I get the, witchy thingy spell candles. They're useful at the beginning. They're a bit expensive if you ask me. So I still have some colored candles. Like, I liked these because they were beeswax and I was fancy at some point. But realistically, what I use the most and what is actually cheap is tea lights. I get a box of 50 tea lights at Lidl for £1.89, and I light 2 of those a day per deity. So I use 4 of those per day, and they last 4 hours. And admittedly, as I said, the candle holders that I have are secondhand, and they come, this one comes from eBay. No, that one comes from eBay. This one comes from Vinted. And it's because I have a passion for this brand that was called Pastimes. They used to do all Art Nouveau and vintagey stuff. It doesn't exist anymore, but a lot of their stuff is therefore on eBay and Vinted. And this was all pastel and went with Venus. And those are all golden and go with Vesta. It's perfection. I use incense. I buy it in bulk because it costs me less. And that's what I buy. I buy the Satia. I have lavender for Vesta, and I have rose for Venus. And I used to do it daily. I've gone down weekly, mainly for an economic reason. Ci stiamo chiedendo il nome Alicia da dove provenisse. Oh Lori. Dunque, tecnicamente. My friend who asked me the origin of my name. Again, the essential oils, I bought 30, 40. I use 3. I use lavender, I use sage, I use rosemary, I use cinnamon at times. Smells nice. The herbs that I use are the herbs from the kitchen. I mentioned, like the ones that we cook with. It's there. I make my own bundles of herbs, so yeah. Don't go for sage, don't go for the colored sages, don't go like... I know that they sound fancy, but we don't smudge, we fumigate at best. Smudging is a ritual of some Native American tribes, not even all of them. So don't go, we don't need to do that, we don't need to steal, we don't need to overwrite traditions that are not ours. In Europe we have fumigated for centuries. Fumigate, it's fine. Get rosemary, get basil, get thyme, get, the fresh herbs at your supermarket, rub them around with jute, dry them for a month or 2, and then burn that. There, done. I use my fingers, not wand. It works on every level. Yeah, instead of a leather grimoire, I have the binder ready to wait, which is gonna be so much better organized. I look forward to stationery from TK Maxx by the end of August so that I can get my new diary for the year to come. It's okay to make your own pendulums. Also, I wasted a disproportionate amount of money. It's not a disproportionate, but I'm still bothered by the fact that I wasted it. In a set of kits of wax with the nice, fancy... I don't know if they're acrylic waxes, I don't know. But the fancy ones, not the one that go actually transparent. Because I imagine I was planning on doing, I don't know, the little bottles, jar spells, and so I wanted them to be properly sealed and fancy. Use the grand total amount times of 0. I just have that stuff around. It's not worth it. Also, if I may say so myself, the more you simplify your practice, your actual practice, the easier it is to keep up. Because you add all these fancy things and this stuff and you want to use it, and it requires time and work and energy, and you will fall off the wagon because of that. So, simple. Keep it simple. To keep it consistent, you need to keep it simple. That's my advice after practicing for 3 years. And I love my practice. I found my ways to make it consistent. I'd like it to be more consistent at times, but who wouldn't? But yes, that's what I feel it was worth sharing. I live off of tea lights, incense, and jute. Do you need anything else? I don't think you do. Do you want anything else? That's up to you, and I'm not here to judge you. But if you are on a shoestring budget, if you are a disabled witch on benefits, that's what I use, and it doesn't require much more than that. Everything else, it's cute, it's aesthetic. Is it needed? No. And until the next video, I really hope that we can hex the patriarchy together, because there's need for it.